The opinions, viewpoints, and beliefs presented on this program do not necessarily reflect those of the management, the affiliates and broadcast partners, or the sponsors. Listener discretion is advised. Between science and ignorance, there is filler.
And good evening, everyone, and welcome to the February 21st, 2016 episode of Paranormal Filler. I'm your host, Wes Forsyth, and tonight, my guest for the first hour is Samantha Hawes. I've got her on the line. I need minions is what I need. I actually dialed her number wrong. I'm calling a famous TV type celebrity, and I dialed their number wrong. And some poor woman in the same area code is wondering why I was interviewing. No, I just asked for Samantha, and she wasn't there. Yeah, that's the way it goes on Paranormal Filler, Samantha.
Oh, goodness, that's so funny. I feel so bad for her.
So, everybody, we're going to get the show started. I'm really excited to talk to you, Samantha. Samantha, now you have a special place in my heart. Do you know why?
Why?
You followed me on Twitter before I followed you.
Oh, did I? Well, it's my pleasure. You have some very interesting tweets.
You are now. For the record, you're the second celebrity to ever do that, I think. Because I'm a little spammy, but I'm contextual. You have to admit, my Twitter feed, although spammy, is all about the paranormal or me drinking.
It is, and that's probably what led me there. There was probably some tweets I saw retweeted that led me there, and I thought to myself, hey, it seems good enough to follow.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm happy that you're happy. Now, okay, I'm not going to spend the hour talking about your dad. But everyone, of course, knows that you are the daughter of Jason Hawes. Now, I do have one question that pertains to your dad. Now, I actually wrote this one down, so I want to get it worded just right. Now, as the daughter of the man who is credited with creating the entire genre we know as paranormal reality TV, do you ever just call him and tell him, hey, will you come fix my toilet?
I call him all the time for everything. I call him for... Dad, my car is making a noise. I call him for every little thing you can think of because, to me, that's who he is. So, yes, he has fixed my toilets. He has fixed my plumbing. He has done all of that.
That is good to hear because I was just thinking that there has to come a time in a man's professional life where he goes, I don't do toilets anymore, and you say, oh, no, Dad, you're going to fix my toilet. So I'm glad to hear that he's still rooted in the plumbing industry.
Yeah, it's actually it's funny that you say that because sometimes in my free time I go out on investigations with the CAPS home team, the local group here, and we did go on a case a few months back, and the homeowner had a weird pipe in her floor, and she just asked out loud. She was like, "Does anybody know what this leads to?" Because it's right in the middle of my basement floor, and the team manager said, "Hey, why don't you text that to your dad and ask?" And I did, and he called right away with the answer. So, I text him about my issues, and I call him for other people's plumbing. So, yes, he does still do that.
Now I'm going to show my age here. Okay, now I remember when you first made your first appearance or two on Ghost Hunters. And so what are you now, like 17, 18?
Me? I'm 25.
I know, I looked it up. I feel so old. Oh, but you now see, I wish I had more time to watch the show. I DVR all of them. That's the sad part about it. I DVR every week, and then if I have time, then I go back and try to catch up a little bit. And incidentally, to show you how good of research I do for the show, I went to my DVR today And what does Sci-Fi do? They played this marathon at some point in the last week of older episodes that you were not on. So I had an entire DVR full of nothing that you've done. So I'm practically flying blind here.
Oh, goodness.
So now I do want to hear, of course, now you grew up with it, but how was the paranormal presented to you in your home? Because I realize psychics do it one way, and your typical enthusiast will do it another way. But I am really curious about how, knowing your dad is practically in charge of paranormal TV, how that comes into the home life.
Well, I mean, when it was introduced to me, obviously there was no show because this was 20-something years ago. But I mean, it was introduced to me as a hobby, and to me, I didn't know that it was different at the time. I mean, the TAP team was a small local team, and they met at a coffee shop, and they went over their cases, and Dad would just say, hey, I'm going to go down to your local coffee shop. We're going to have some coffee. We're going to go over some stuff for work and for investigating. Do you want to come get a ginger ale? Like, that was what it was. And, that's what I would do on the weekend nights, just to hang out with Dad. I mean, he worked all week, so it was time to spend with him. And so it was just something that was always there. It wasn't brought up one day, hey, this is what I'm going to start doing. This is going to be a new hobby. He always did it. So there was no, presentation of it that had to be done. And I never questioned, hey, do other people do this? Is this odd? But then when the show started, I started to realize, hey, this isn't what other people are doing. When people started to say, hey, we saw a television show, and is your dad on that? Is that your dad? We saw local places around, and people were making the connection that it occurred to me, okay, not everybody does this. This isn't, I was 13, 14 at the time. This isn't something that everybody does. This is a little different. But, I mean, I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful that I was never, it was never perceived as being odd, because I think it's left me very open and very welcoming to a lot of different things. So it was cool. It was a cool childhood.
I really, of course, I'm not everywhere, and I do have people come on the show from time to time that tell me, everybody thought I was crazy but really, it seems to, I'll put it this way, when you've got, right now, we've got one TV network that's practically devoted to it. The History Channel is practically devoted to it. And, and now Sci-Fi has kind of moved away from it, and I don't think it was anything about it wasn't that they didn't like the genre. I think they saw that they were just going to be another network carrying these shows if they didn't move on. But, I think it's pretty widely accepted. Now I realize there's always going to be somebody's going to call the weird kid, and that kind of thing. But the paranormal itself, I'm sure you've experienced this, because you do a lot of conventions now. People walk up to you and they say, "I don't believe in ghosts, but let me tell you my ghost story." And
yeah. I do. I mean, I get that as Twitter messages, as Facebook or on Instagram. I mean, there'll be an Instagram if someone just says, "I need to tell you something. I don't believe in anything on the show. I don't believe in this, but let me tell you what happens in my house." So it's, and I feel that sometimes they say, they don't believe in what they're seeing in movies. I think that might be the misconception. They don't believe in these dangerous, horrible scenes they're seeing in horror flicks. But hey, let me tell you about the voices I think I'm hearing in my home. So, I mean, I don't know if there's a misconception there, but people are also they're apt to talk about it now. And I think that's really great because, I was the odd kid in school whose dad had an odd job because, that was going back 11, 12 years. That was before there was a ghost hunter show. That was before there were any of these other paranormal shows. So, it was odd. Who else does that? Why does her dad do that? Why does he find that fun? But it's more widely accepted now, and people are more apt to say, hey, do you know anything about this? Because this is what I'm experiencing. Have you seen this before? So it's really cool. It's cool that it's no longer so hush-hush.
Well, I realized before the show started there might have been a little bit of that, but I would think at some point it's, that is so cool, your dad's on TV.
Oh, yeah. Of course there was that. There was, because I was in junior high school. So after the initial, what does he do? What's this? Oh, that's cool. Do you know any celebrities? I think that was the thing that, immediately if someone's on television, you have this A-list celebrity friend group, which isn't true at all. But, it was, of course, things like that. Do you get to see cool places? Do you get to do, cool things? And, sadly for me, that stuff wasn't until I got to travel with the show did I get to go to these places and experience these things. But, of course, there was, the initial reactions were great.
Now, growing up I'm going to say that you grew up in the paranormal industry, because even though you weren't necessarily on TV, I just can't imagine that it wasn't, you weren't cognizant of it enough to realize, this is something going on in my life. Have you seen any development, any progression, any evolution of the paranormal field that you like the direction that it's going? And I don't mean just on TV. I mean in your day-to-day, like with the TAPS home team, with the people you meet at the conventions.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yes, I love it. I love that I can have open conversations with people. I love that people, even skeptical people, they want to hear your stories, and they don't want you to, prove them wrong all the time, but they say, listen, I have this one gentleman I talk to, on my Facebook sometimes, and he's told me, hey, I'm a police officer. I don't believe in this stuff. I'm skeptical. But, this show and the field and following you guys, you've opened my eyes to other possibilities. And I like the growth in that sense. I mean, I love the growth in the sense of equipment and the devices that we're given to, try to get the answers that we need. But I really just love the amount of people I meet that I can talk to and I can make connections with. I mean, my favorite part about conventions is the people I meet, and a lot of them, in return, we follow back and forth on Twitter or we talk on Facebook, and they say, hey, I met you here. This is what we were talking about. And I mean, it's opened up friendships, it's opened up doors, and the field is just growing, and people are interesting, and everyone has a different way to approach it, and different stories and experiences, and it's great. I think that it's amazing, and you see a lot of family structure in these teams, and it's so cool.
Now, how old were you when you actually got to go out stomping around dark buildings?
Well, I mean, Dad's been taking us out since we were really young. I mean, probably about 10 or so, he started letting us tag along. And by the time I was, 13, 14, and he could trust me to stay, in safe locations and use my better judgment, he'd let me go with him and say, hey, if you want to, grab someone in, go walk around by yourself and do some recording and, take some video or whatnot, feel free to do that. So, I mean, I've been doing it in general about 15 years, on my own about 11. Now,
from the time that you went out and you started stomping around the buildings to present day, do you feel like I guess I would say your feelings about the paranormal, but your belief structure, what you believe about the paranormal, do you feel like that's evolved with the field, or because you were in it at such a young age, are you pretty well, I'll say set in your ways?
I got asked the question pretty similar recently, and I sat back and thought about it. And I don't know if my feelings in particular have changed, just because, I feel like some people going into the field now, they were skeptical, they had an experience, and it opened their eyes, and this is what they're doing, and this is a hobby they're taking on to get the answers they need. But I never had a moment where I was skeptical, truth be told. It was just something that, I was never forced to believe in something, but I was told, hey, these things happen, there's no answer for it, and, no answers as of yet, and just left to make up my own ideas, my own perceptions as to what I felt was going on and what I believed in. So I don't feel like my feelings have really changed overall. I think I've always been pretty open to all of it.
Okay, we're going to take a quick commercial break. We're talking to Samantha Hawes of Ghost Hunters. Everybody, we'll be right back.
TarotByKen.com.
Unlike other tarot readers, Ken reads multiple spreads during each session to provide you with clear, concise answers and guidance. Don't take my word for it, I'm just a voice on the radio. From Kelly, one reading with Ken completely changed things around for me. Jennifer, I feel so rejuvenated about my life. Melissa, it has changed my life. Visit tarotbyken.com to arrange your own tarot date, or you can call or text Ken at 859-229-4833. And welcome back to Paranormal Filler. I am talking to Samantha Hawes. Now, Samantha, what, since we kind of touched on it a little bit on that last question, I love hearing what people actually believe is going on. I like getting, when you're in a group like TAPS and these paranormal groups, a lot of them they seem to me like they want to shy away from that question because they're afraid that their beliefs might taint what they present to the public, perceptually. But beyond what you can tell me that you know, what do you really believe is going on in when we're talking about ghost and the activities that we observe in the field?
What? Okay. I'm trying to soak in your question is what I'm trying to do. So, what do I personally believe is happening overall as far as the paranormal field is going? You know, I couldn't tell you. I mean, I've always just been raised to with the idea that what makes us believe that we're the only, these human beings are the only source of energy. You know, what makes us think that our souls are only in our bodies and they can't move about freely? You know, I mean, to me, I was raised thinking our bodies are a vessel and our bodies will eventually give out, and where does that energy go? So, I mean, I don't know what's going on. I know that I've had amazing experiences. I know that I've had conversations. I know I've been touched and I've seen things, and I've just been given great answers and responses in a lot of the cases that I've gone to, even, you know, recent ones that are going to be airing later this year. And I don't know. I don't know what's going on, but I know that it's so interesting, and every day that I go out on a case, I just can't wait to see what it brings me and what answers it gives me. And I love this field. I really do.
That's a very good answer. I mean, you know, but I got you to admit that you believe there is something left over from mankind and that is what we're encountering in the field on occasion. I mean, I realize not everything, both the skeptical side and the believer side, it's going to fall into that little category box. But I did love that answer. Now, where do you see? Now, of course, now this is something. Every time I have somebody from Ghost Hunters on, I just love how ever since about the second season, the demise of Ghost Hunters has been so widely predicted every year. But it just keeps going on and keeps going on, and but nothing goes on forever. Do you see yourself trying to stay in the field even after this little project we call Ghost Hunters finally moves on, or is there? Do you have passions otherwise that you'd want to pursue? Where do you see yourself after Ghost Hunters?
Well, I definitely see myself still in the field. I mean, whether it's a television show or not, I mean, who's to say? But I mean, the field is something. Obviously, it's my life. It's been my life. It wasn't something I started at 24 years old. You know, some people seem to think that because that's when I came on the show. But no, this has been my life. I was investigating beforehand as a hobby. I investigate off the show now. You know, obviously not only conventions. I do private home cases with the TAPS home team, which aren't televised. They're private. I go along when I can. I don't make it to all of them. But I like to do that. I like to handle private cases. I don't like everything to always be on the television screen because I feel like sometimes that might take the passion away when it's your job. Because this is a hobby and this is important to me. But I definitely have other passions. I have an education degree. I have a history degree. And teaching is something that I definitely have always wanted to do, and I see myself doing sooner or later. So, you know, whenever the show does end, which, you know, people get all worried that it's ending because it's not on right now. No, there's a whole nother season coming. We don't know how many more seasons there'll be, but the show isn't canceled or anything of that nature. So, I mean, when it does eventually come to an end, which one day it has to, I always have other things to pursue. I'll have teaching. I'm a mother. I'm a wife. So my life is pretty chock full. There'll be things for me to do.
That's my greatest fear of sci-fi. It's not, and I don't want to get you in trouble here. I don't worry about people losing interest in the show, but sci-fi has this horrible, horrible habit of taking shows and during the hiatus between seasons, especially when and it seems to me the more established the show is, the worse they do this. But they leave too much space in between there, and people literally, I want to say I don't want to say they lose interest, but they forget.
They forget.
Yeah, they forget. Mm-hmm. And that is my greatest fear about the way sci-fi does these little long breaks between seasons.
Yeah, I mean, you see a lot of networks doing it now. I mean, they have shows that have been running for. I mean, obviously, not all networks have shows that have been running for 11 years, but they pride themselves in having a fan base for those shows, and they don't promote them as much as they do their newer shows. So, I mean, we do a lot of the self-promotion. People always ask us when we're coming on, and we don't have a date right now. But as soon as we get a date, as soon as we get that email, we immediately tell everyone, and we try to keep everyone posted. Because, I mean, sadly, a lot of it does fall on us. But, we try to reach out as much as we can. But sadly, sometimes we get the people who say, hey, I didn't know you've been on for the last 6 weeks. And it's just, we try so hard to reach out to everyone.
I just hope they don't pull a ghost lab trick on you and stick you on at like 2 a.m. That was what they did with the one season.
I hope not. As far as I know, that we're keeping our time slot. But, I'm hoping that we come on sooner than later this year.
Now, on the topic of paranormal TV, now we'll split this into two parts because now that you're an adult and you're on the TV show, the answer may be different. But now, growing up, having that involvement in the paranormal in your home, did you watch the other TV shows or even the History Channel documentaries? Did your passion for the paranormal carry over into learning from others like that?
Yes, I was a big fan of, now I don't remember the exact name, but there used to be a television show, I think it might have been on the History Channel. It was called like A Haunting or something like that. And there was, every week they did different locations and they recreated the stories. And that was definitely one of my favorite television shows. But, my passion for the paranormal has just rolled over in so many different ways, not only other shows I'm watching, but, you mentioned things on the History Channel. And, I mean, obviously I went to school for history. And, I'm a historian. And so, I mean, my passion for the paranormal has rolled over to that and led me to that passion, which in return, I think brought me full circle back to the paranormal. So, I mean, it's been pretty cool because they're connected more than you'd think.
Well, no, not more than I would think. I think it's very connected. That was actually where I was going. I was going with my next question. One thing that I know comes back to me, and I've observed it too. But I know when ghost hunters goes into a location, they try to get the background information. Now, I don't know, how many flunkies they send on to actually find out, their true history versus what the tour guide tells you. But as someone who also has a passion about history, do you find there's often a disconnect between what their history, the documented history really is, and the stories that are told when you get to a place?
I haven't yet. I haven't. There have been a few cases where the history will give us the answers that they're looking for. It gives us names of, they're saying, I think its name's Jonathan. It seemed to respond to that, and you find out that there was a gentleman there whose name was John or something of that nature. But as far as investigating the history for the shows, usually before we get to a location, our producer might have a little bit of background information, just, what the family knows has happened at the location or what the family knows. But Sci-Fi has been Pilgrim Studios and Sci-Fi have been really great about giving me access to like Ancestry.com and things of that nature. And they'll say to me, 2 or 3 days before we go out, hey, listen, this is the name we have. This is some of the history. This is the family that lives there. See what you can dig up. And there have been cases where they'll give me, the phone numbers of the family members that we're meeting and the family members that have had these experiences so that I can call them and hear it firsthand and, get the story again and talk to them as I go through Ancestry.com and go through local newspaper clippings and things of that nature and just try to put a story together and figure out exactly what's going on so we have a background before we go in. But, sometimes we're at these locations for a few days, so we could be there a day or two, and then, on the third day, I find some really cool information we didn't have that helped us out with some evidence from 2 nights before. So, it's really cool, and I'm really, I am really blessed to have Sci-Fi and Pilgrim give me a lot of the resources they have. It's been really, really cool and really helpful.
Now, I think I know that one of the things that stands, actually it's on your Sci-Fi page, but I would like you to share with the listeners, I think this is probably, here's the question, what was your most intense moment? And I want to see if it's the same story that was on the page, but in the field, what has been your most intense epiphany moment?
My most, it is exactly what I'm sure you read on the Sci-Fi website. Back in, it would have been 2008. There was a convention, there was TAPSCon that happened in Florida, and there was a wonderful hotel, and I always tell myself I need to look up the name of the hotel, but anybody who searches it up, you'll find it right away. But it was the hotel that TAPSCon was held at. And, Dad had been there investigating 2 or 3 nights prior. He was going out every night and taking groups through the building and investigating and, teaching them, just little things and having fun. And on the 3rd or 4th night, he got really sick. He ended up getting the flu or something. And he said to me, I can't go tonight. Can you go? Can you do this? And I said, yeah, that's fine. And my mom and I, we were walking down the hallway. And at that point, we were just kind of wandering. And we heard my dad. And we heard him, and he was like, Samantha, my middle name is Alexis, and I got the Samantha Alexis and the dad voice. And he said, I told you not to be at this side of the building. I told you to move. And I said, what are you talking about? You told me to be here. This is where you said to go. This is the safe, spot to be in. And he said, no, I told you this is not a good spot. Get out of here. And he just kept saying it. And he got to about a foot away from me before he was gone. Whatever it was gone. But what I heard and, what I saw walking was, my dad in shape and in form and the way he moved. And, he knew my name, and I hadn't investigated that spot. So whatever it was knew my name. So, when it disappeared, there was a room that we felt it had gone into, and we called the hotel staff up, and they said, there's nothing in that room. It's just they stored old Christmas decorations, and the door was all bolted up. So, we obviously went and told Dad, and he hadn't had any experiences like that there. But it was an odd moment. Whatever it was, felt to me to show itself as my father, and it didn't hurt us. It didn't, a lot of people may put, a doppelganger spirit, as a negative entity of some kind, but it didn't. And I have to, think to myself, maybe it was a bad situation. Maybe there was, something dangerous in that hallway at that point, like a squeaky board or, a hole, something of that nature. Because whatever it was, it wanted us to leave. So we just did. We thanked it for the heads up and we left. But it was an experience is what it was. And I've never had another experience like it.
That was intense because now apparently I missed the part where you actually saw your dad. I thought you just heard his voice and turned around and he wasn't there.
No, it was definitely, it disappeared right into a room that was just, a foot or two away from us, and it was just gone. And so we went and called some people to come open up the door and see where that led to, see if that could give us some answer. But I mean, whatever it was stern. It knew my first and middle name, and it wanted us to move, and it, over and over, this isn't where you need to be, this isn't a safe spot, I told you not to go down here. And it was nothing he had warned us. He had never said, don't go down there. So we just took it as a hint, just a get out, it's not safe, and that's what we did. And I mean, who knows what could have happened? Who knows, somebody was trying to help us out.
That's a good way to look at it. And a lot of people just would have freaked out and wet their pants and gone on, myself probably included. Now, have you had? I just love the way you characterized that story, because I'm waiting for you. My ears would have bled. Have you had a moment, an experience that maybe didn't jar you as emotionally, but maybe startled you much worse, or really brought more of a feeling of, I'll use the word fear, but you can change the word if you want to.
There hasn't been a moment that scared me, no. Lucky enough with being in the field as long as I have, I've never been in a situation where I felt, in danger or anything of that nature. But I also, when I go into a place that I know may have some sort of negative entity, I make sure that I stay very much level-headed. And, I just make myself, remind myself to keep going and not calm down and not let it affect me in any way. So I've never let myself get in a situation where I've been afraid, and I've never had anything scare me. Obviously, there are things that startled me. There's always, the door slam, or the lock on a door that locks, or the voice in your ear and nobody's standing there. I'm like, there are, of course, moments like that. But as far as moments that stop me in my tracks, I think the one at TapCon has to be my moment.
Now, I should write these questions down as I think of them, because I actually was going somewhere with that. Gosh, I'm really drawing a blank here. Now, with your field work,
mm-hmm.
Is there anything? I think. Well, let's just go back to basics. I'll start over. Then, as soon as I start on this, it'll actually come back to me, and then we'll have to change topics again. Where now you're finally getting to travel with the TV show, of course. And of course, you're getting to go to some of the big conventions and travel. What's on your bucket list as a ghost hunter? I'll call you professional, because you actually, I'm sure they write you some kind of check for this. But what is on your bucket list? The place you want to go?
My place I want to go as far as haunted places. There's definitely, I want to go to the Queen Mary. I know that's been done on the show, but I've never been. I want to go to Alcatraz. I want to go to really anywhere in New Orleans. So if somebody could get me down there, that would be great. Because I know that the team has done, mansions and plantations and everything there. And that's just seeing New Orleans is on my bucket list, and going there and experiencing some of that history. So, I definitely have quite a few, haunted locations I want to get to. But, if we're talking conventions and things like you brought up, and meeting people and enjoying people's stories and experiences, I want to go to things like, like Dragon Con and things like that. But, my bucket list of haunted places is definitely long.
Now, I actually do remember my last question, just like I told you. Now, in your field work, what is your favorite part of the investigative process of the stomping around the darkened building? What do you enjoy most?
What do I enjoy most? As far as the whole process of a television show, or like the actual we're investigating?
No, I don't. I don't care about the TV show. Pretend the cameras are not even there.
My favorite, what I enjoy the most is, after all the TV stuff is after we've set up cameras and they filmed, that 2 hours of our life. When I get to sit down with someone, like KJ or Dave or Dustin or anybody on the show, because we all, work as a team, when we get to sit down, and I mean, we sit in these rooms together for, some of you guys might see it on TV for 3 minutes, but I mean, we're going, round for round, 3 hours or so. And I mean, just sitting there and just throwing ideas at each other. And just, I mean, not only we're trying to talk with whatever wants to talk to us and listen, but, we're going back and forth about the history of the place and, throwing out ideas and what we think could be going on and trying to solve some questions that we have. And debunking. I mean, I like debunking not because I want to say, hey, your house isn't haunted. What you're seeing isn't really there. I like debunking for the sense of, well, something is here. Maybe it's not doing all of this stuff. Let's try to push away what could be misconstrued and, could be being seen as scary, and let's focus on what we can't solve. So I do like debunking. I like putting together the puzzle pieces and trying to figure it out and check some things off. So those are my favorite moments.
I could not agree with you more as far I don't know that that's my favorite part, but I do like that part of the debunking, except now I'd say you're running this more with the TAPS home team than you do with the TV show. But do you really think the homeowner or whoever you go to actually, when you explain away part of their paranormal experience, even when you think there's something going on there, do you really think they believe you? Do they really believe the door's not hinged right or whatever?
I've seen it go both ways. I've seen them very thankful, because, that room they're always in and the door, always slams shut and they get scared and now they won't go in the room. And, the door slams shut every time you walk in and step on a wooden board. It shifts the door and it goes shut. So I've seen it, come to the point where they say, oh my goodness, I was just so afraid of everything else. This was really pushing me over the edge and thanking you for that. But I've also seen it, where there's so much going on. They don't care. They don't care that you debunked that one thing because in general, they're afraid and they don't want to sleep at night. There are children involved. And so, I mean, it definitely is a case by case basis. I mean, if the overall picture isn't that they were worried, they were going to get locked in a room, they're worried that they're going to get, physically injured, then they're not going to care that we found out how the door shut. And that's not why they went you there to solve their door shutting. So I've definitely seen it go both ways.
What is, now, serious question here for a change. What do you hope to get out of ghost hunting? What is your end game? If you had to write down a mission statement, what would it be?
Oh my goodness, I've never been asked that.
About damn time that I ask something that everybody else hasn't asked you.
Oh my goodness. I don't know. I don't know what my end game is. I have absolutely no idea. I just look for different answers every case, and truth be told, I think I'm more so, I'm not, overly afraid of dying, of course, who wants to pass on, but, I do want to know what happens after. That's definitely something that's important to me. I think it's important to me as, being a mother and being a spouse, and I definitely want to know that. I want to know what my connection will still be, and I'm waiting for the day one of these spirits that talks to me tells me, this is a chain of events. This is how it happens. This is how you get to stay in your home and, see your kids every day. I mean, there's definitely that aspect. I want those answers.
Yeah, wouldn't it be nice if one of them would just come out and tell you instead,
right?
Instead of all this vague stuff?
I swear, and every case we go on, the first question we ask is, can you tell us your name? And that is the one question they never want to answer. They will answer other things. They will tell you where to go. They will say no, but they don't tell you their name, and they won't give you those answers.
Sometimes I think they take the tact of it's none of your business. So just
yeah. I don't know you.
Now, okay. Now, I understand you're a mother. What's the breeding situation over there?
What's the what?
The breeding situation. How many kids do you have? That's my funny way of saying it. Yeah,
I have two. I have two little girls.
How old are they?
They are turning 7 and 5.
What do they think about mommy being on TV?
They love it. They know, I mean, they don't love that I'm on TV. They don't really care. They don't, because, you know, they've grown up with what they call their papa. They call my dad Papa, and they've grown up with Papa on TV. So it was funny because I think they just expected me to go on TV is really what it was, because they don't know any other way. It's not cool to them. They don't, you know, they were just like, oh, mom's going to do this now. This is her new job. They like it, though. I mean, they're interested in the field. They're at the point where they ask questions. She's about to be 5, but my 4-year-old, when she started preschool, she took it upon herself to explain to her classroom, because they were listening to the Ghostbusters song near Halloween. She took it upon herself to explain to her classroom her mommy's profession. And, of course, the classroom didn't know, and I didn't share it with her teacher. So, I mean, there were questions when I picked her up, and her teacher couldn't figure out why she was telling everyone that I was a Ghostbuster and, you know, that I got on planes and went to find ghosts. So, I mean, there were questions along the way. But, I mean, they love it. They're open to it, and they're just like I was as a child. They don't know any different. So to them, it's not strange in any way.
Ghostbuster. I love it. Now, as far as your work in the field, now, this is something that it's more of a question that I normally ask, you know, Joe Blow's ghost team in, you know, Podunk. But I do wonder, do you in particular, or the equipment that you use, is that just pretty much you all explain it to each other? Do you do any other research into the paranormal field, into the theory field, not just the technology side of it? But what do you do to enhance yourself as, I'll call you an authority, as a ghost hunter, as a paranormal researcher, versus just somebody who's on TV?
Well, I mean, definitely, and I tend to get the misconception a lot that, you know, I'm just on TV because I was born, I guess, as someone who's on TV, but that's not the case at all. I mean, definitely, I underwent the same training that, you know, people saw cast members from Ghost Hunters Academy go through. I mean, mine was much longer and much more drawn out. But, I mean, there was, even when I came on the show, because investigating I had been doing beforehand wasn't on the show. So I had to, you know, they had to make sure I was able to give the same results and go through stuff effectively in the short, you know, week turnaround we have for getting evidence back. So, I mean, there was training. There was taking evidence, you know, home or to the hotel to go over, and Dave would take the same evidence, and he would make sure that I wasn't missing a beat. I wasn't missing anything in that evidence that he was picking up on, or, you know, vice versa. Like, I mean, it would be cool if I found something and he didn't hear it, and I would do the same with Steve. He would take something, and if he found something and I didn't hear it, well, I needed to listen again to see if I could figure it out. And, I mean, I was trained on all the equipment, and when, you know, we're given new equipment from a manufacturer or from somebody who has made something for us, they train us on it. And then we monitor each other on it. And Dave is obviously our tech guy. He makes sure that we're all, you know, doing things appropriately. And when I came on the show, I had to be trained in, you know, their DVR system and the cameras that we use, because they're not cameras that, you know, every team has. Not every team has the ability to have the cameras we have, and the imaging and the thermal cameras and things of that nature. So there's definitely a lot of training, and it's happened over a course of years.
Yeah, if I had to criticize Ghost Hunters, the TV show, for any one thing, it is that I felt that they've done much better lately, but it seemed to me like somebody was dragging their feet on embracing the new, I almost hate to say technology, because a lot of it is just blinky lights, but like it just seemed to me like, just like the DVR system you're talking about, it seemed to me like the show, that was something that we should have seen years before we did, just based on the success of the show. Does somebody make the conscious decision that let's wait and let somebody else work the bugs out of it, or just was Daddy resting on his laurels? That's a terrible way to say that. I mean, was he happy with the way things were going, and didn't see the need to upgrade everything as fast as it was available?
I'm not sure. I mean, truth be told, our recorders are still, they're recorders that we've had for quite a few years. We get new cameras, every season. They're usually the same kind of camera, but, just updated and newer to make sure we're not having any issues with them or anything like that.
Right.
And we get our thermal imaging and, we get new thermal cameras and stuff of that nature, which, truth be told, that stuff probably has to do with, production and production's budget and things of that nature. But I don't know. I don't know those answers truthfully. We have some pretty cool equipment, so for that I'm thankful.
Now, when you go out with the TAPS home team, what do you take with you? What is Samantha Hall's go-to equipment that you're attached to yourself?
Well, the home team themselves, they have their own cameras, so I don't have to bring, a camera with me. But my go-to for, when I go with them, that's a recorder. I like having my own recorder. I don't have a lot of my own equipment that I take around with me, but that's my go-to. I enjoy it. I enjoy the easy use of it. I enjoy being able to put it down anywhere and not have to aim it at any certain spot or anything like that. So, that's my go-to.
Now, do you use? I know on the they use some really high-end digital recorders on the TV show. Mm-hmm. They've went from the Zoom 2 to I don't even know what the other Zoom was, and now I think they're even using sometimes a one that's made for musicians, a professional. I forget what it's called. But now, is that what you pack around, or do you have do you just have a Walmart digital recorder that you like? Or
I'm lucky enough to have the same one that I use on the television show. So it makes it. I enjoy it because of its quality. So I'm really happy to be able to have one of those in my possession.
I tried one of the Zoom recorders, and my problem was, and of course I'm not doing this week to week. But I found them terribly hard to use in the dark, because there were so many damn buttons on them. Yeah. So I went back to my old Sony. It has 2 buttons, and I know what one of them feels like, and so I'm good there. Now in the you kind of hinted that you still enjoy it. Do you still like going through all the audio and video for the evidentiary part of the investigation?
I do. There's definitely by the 7th or 8th consecutive hour, running on 3 days of no sleep, that, I'm cringing and I'm having caffeine withdrawals, and, there's definitely that moment. But it keeps me going to know, hey, listen, if I, maybe in the next 2 minutes, there could be something absolutely groundbreaking. There could be those answers that I want so bad. This one might have given me its name. There's definitely that. And I think that's why I like it. I think that has to do a lot with why I love history and why I love historical research, and because I just want the next answer. I want the next piece to the puzzle, and that's very much how my mind works. And, those are the things that excite me. Which, whatever, that might be a little nerdy to some people, but it's fine. But I do enjoy it. But, there's some moments where we've been investigating for 3 nights straight. I'm running on 4 hours sleep, and I'm on hour, 9 of evidence, and I wrap, and there's nothing. And, of course that's sad, but it's the game, so it's what happens.
I lost that fire. I'm glad that you. Of course, you're young. Wait till you're my age. Right. Get off my yard. Now we've blown through the hour. We're at the end of the show. We've got a couple minutes left. I want to get some plugs in for you. Now, the main reason that I scheduled you, other than just thinking you're a wonderful person from what I've seen, is that you're doing Salem Con. Yeah. And I actually had that pulled up on one of my many computers here. So that's April 8th and 9th. You will be appearing at Salem Con with your father and just a whole bunch of industry stalwarts, we'll call them. Anything else you want to plug?
Yeah, I mean, come May 20th and 21st, I'm in Mansfield doing the Ohio State Reformatory. And, I mean, that's going to be really cool. I've never been. I know Chip Coffey, who's a great person. Dave's going to be there. Dustin's going to be there. So I'm really excited to share my first time ever there with those people. And, I mean, in July 29th and 30th, I'm doing Pennhurst State School and Hospital in Pennsylvania. And that's another one that's on my bucket list. And this is my first time going. And that's going to be great. That's Dave, Steve, Dustin, John Staffis, I think, is at that, which is really cool because I haven't seen John Staffis in probably, 10 years. So, I mean, I'm excited for that. And there's a few more events in the works that I know of, but I can't share them yet until they're set in stone. So, but I'll be a few more places this year.
Dime to a dollar, John Staffis is wearing the same shirt he was when we saw him 10 years ago.
Probably. I mean, we could probably stand next to each other and it would be the same picture.
But, okay, now, of course, most of the events you mentioned, I'm sure people can find details at Ideal Event Management on the Internet. And then everybody, you can go to, I try to keep up on all this stuff. You go to paranormalfiller.com, click the calendar link. I do have a link to Salem Con. I'm not sure about the other events yet. It's whether Ideal or not has posted them, but I've got most of their events up. But Samantha, it's been great fun talking to you. It's been a lot of fun, and I want to thank you so much for coming on my little radio show.
Well, thank you for having me. It was great talking to you.
And next time I'll invite you back one of these days, and I'll try to actually do some research ahead of time and not forget my questions.
Awesome. Sounds great. We'll talk soon.
Thank you so much. Everybody, this has been the first hour of Paranormal Filler. If you're listening on WIHGradio.com, remember, stay tuned.
Paranormal